Before I start the video, I would like to give a massive shout out to my Patreons who have been supporting my channel. If you would like to check out my Patreon and receive early access to some very exciting videos coming soon, then please click the link in the description below. Hello there and welcome to the Just a Nerd podcast, and today I am joined by...
Me.
Did yourself? Yes, me. Who are you?
Oh, just another Jack. There's not enough of us, so I thought, here I am.
Spice things up,
Oh,
yes.
yes.
So, this Jack, what do you do on the Doctor Who side of things?
Well, all sorts. I'm all over the place, me. I mainly do comedy bits, Doctor Who spoofs and the like, but the two main things I'm known for is creating the community show and Doctor Who Road.
Nice, nice. Some very popular stuff in the fandom as well, dare I say. So, let's talk a little bit about yourself, Jack. So, when did you first become a fan of Doctor Who? Because I assume you're a fan, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, look at my room. There's nothing that would consider me a big fan, like nothing at all.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just thought that was Star Trek, to be honest.
It is. I think there's a couple of Doctor Who bits, but I mean, much like a lot of us, I became a fan in sort of 2005, 2006 when the show came back. I'm pretty confident I watched the Eccleston stuff on broadcast, but I didn't become obsessed until 2006 when Mr. Tennant arrived
Of
and
course.
took my heart.
So, which episode of Tennant's run in 2006 truly captured your attention and got you hooked?
I honestly, I think it sort of knocked it out of the park the first time. Like, I vividly remember watching Christmas Invasion, and when that scene of him coming out on the cigarette ship happens, like that's when my brain unlocked, and then everything was Doctor Who. I watched this a home video with my family from 2008
Yeah.
of it was a family holiday to Disneyland in Florida, and genuinely, I've got a Dalek T-shirt on, and I won't shut the fuck up about Doctor Who. The whole time I'm in Disney, and I can be like, "Oh, that'd be cool if the Doctor was here."
Wow, that's some foreshadowing.
It was a lot to take in.
Wow. Wow. So you were
Yeah.
hooked right at the start of Tennant's run. And how's things been since? Because obviously, a lot's changed. We've gone from Tennant to Smith to Capaldi to Whittaker to Tennant again. You
Oh
know,
God, just can't keep away. Oh mate, I was pleased, but I mean, I'd say I loved Smith, especially early days Smith. Series 5 is probably the best series of the whole show, in my opinion. Probably better than Tennant's run. Capaldi, Ducks and Dives. I think
yeah.
he's got some real highlights, but I don't come back to it an awful lot. Whitaker, I think, is probably quite the same as it goes. Like I wouldn't say it ducks and dives. It's more just sort of one straight thing, which people enjoy, but I personally haven't really taken to it. But
Yeah.
oh boy, the 60th, it feels tailor made for me. I'm
Oh yeah.
hype.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And how do you feel about Series 14 and beyond? Because, we're just getting Tennant back as a new Doctor, and then bam, he's not going to want to go again, and then he's going to regenerate.
Oh, dude, classic. But yeah, no, Shooty is going to be spectacular. Like, no, I'll admit I haven't seen him in anything bar the like 2 minutes he's in Barbie, but just from how he is talking about it in interviews and all the leaked pictures and stuff, oh, he's going to be a lot of people's favorites, and I hope one of mine because holy crap, he looks amazing.
Yeah, he really does. And I feel like he really understood, what it means to be the Doctor as well. I feel
Mm,
like, again, he's going to be a really strong ambassador to the show as well, especially with
yeah.
the show getting a lot of attention now because of the Disney involvement and stuff. I feel like that is going to be a game changer. But let's
Mm.
turn it back onto you, Jack. So you've been a fan of the show for a while. I'm guessing you've watched some classic Who as well, judging by your recent spoof as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I've got a little question for you. So if you had to pick one episode from each era, classic and modern, what would be your favorite episode from each era and why?
Well, I would say from the classics, it's kind of a tie between City of Death, which I'm enamored with these days, hence why I made the spoof with Harry, and Remembrance of the Daleks, because
Okay.
McCoy and Ace just are the best Doctor and companion duo from the classic run. I love Tom. I love a lot of his companions too, and there's some damn contenders throughout the run. But McCoy and Ace take the cake every time. Me and Gemma, my wife, are obsessed with them.
Yeah.
When it comes to the new series, it's honestly stuck between three, and
Okay.
I'm awful at picking a favorite because it changes every day. The first is Waters of Mars, which is an
Of
obvious
course.
pick
Yeah.
because it's easily the best of Tennant's run. The second is Heaven Sent from Capaldi's run, another pretty obvious pick
Yeah.
because it it stands alone in series 9 and the whole show.
Yeah.
And the other one is the 11th Hour because it's the best series opener in the whole show, in my
Yeah.
opinion. It's truly perfect from beginning to end, even though it does start the Moffat browser history joke, which I can
Yes.
forgive because it was funny in that one. But yeah, okay, that's a bit crap. I need to pick. So I'll go with Remembrance for Classic, and I'm going to go 11th Hour for the new series. That's my picks.
Yeah, you know what? I think they are really good choices, especially the 11th hour, because I feel like it gets a lot of love, but I feel like it's not fully appreciated that there was a lot riding on the production of that because
Oh, 100%.
that was like make or break. Because I don't know if you're aware, Jack, but Moffat did say in interviews that the BBC were considering cancelling Doctor Who again after David Tennant. So the
Which is
fact
mad.
I know. Like, just the fact, like, just imagine we only had series 1 to 4, and then that was it.
I don't want to live in that world. Thank
That
God we don't.
that would have been a horrible world. But the fact that the 11th hour, it was a good introduction episode. It was a good first Doctor episode as well,
Mhm.
and it did really set the tone for series 5 and beyond. It really was a good one, especially you know kind of learning what was to come with the Pandorica and the silence, all of that. Yeah, it really was a good
Yeah.
episode for sure.
Love the Pandorica stuff. Although, admittedly, I always thought the Crack in Time stuff was done by the end of Series 5. I thought it was like, oh, okay, the Big Bang 2 caused it, whatevs. But then it just kept going. And I was always very confused because I thought, why? Mr. Moffat, why? But eh, doesn't
Yeah,
stop it from being cool as hell.
yeah. Like that's the thing with Moffat's writing. You just like he does try to write it in a clever way, but then I feel
Mm.
like sometimes he tries to write it too cleverly, and then we end up getting plot
He's a
holes.
he's a weird dude because he brought some of the highest highs to the show, but then also some of the worst the show has produced. And like, yeah, I do love his show running. I do love that he got the chance, but I think we all agree that he probably should have stayed just a guest writer. But that's
Yeah,
he still did a hell of a good job with Series 5. I mean, that's pretty much perfect in my opinion.
yeah.
Opinion
Series
stuff.
5, that's an opinion I do agree with you, fellow Jack. I mean, for me, Series 6 was kind of where I felt a little bit all over the place because it was like, wait, what? Um,
It's such a weird series, especially following series 5. I kind of wish it kept the fairy tale aesthetic of 5. Not I mean, I'm glad that they changed it up each series because Doctor Who, it's what it's known for. But at the same time, it doesn't really have its own identity. At
yeah,
least series 7 is kind of like the blockbuster series where each one, like the poster was designed first. I think Mr. TARDIS said that in a review. But series 6 is just kind of like it starts off like, okay, we're going to go to America. We can do all this stuff. Then the rest is like, is the scraps. We don't.
yeah,
There it is. Here's the flesh. Sure.
yeah, yeah. The flesh. And then as well, the whole concept of time lords can just be born in the time vortex, well, conceived in the time vortex.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you got to wonder if you went back in time to 2008 and was like, you talked to Moffat when he's writing Science in the Library and was like, so this River character, what happened there? What's her story? He'd be like, oh yeah, I've got it all planned out. Yeah, yeah. There's gonna be companions when I'm showrunner, even though I don't even know if I'm gonna do that yet. Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They had sex in the TARDIS. Is my point. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's yeah. To be fair, that is a good point. I would be curious to know if Moffat did have this all planned out in 2000. Well, 2007 he would have wrote it. So yeah, I would have been curious to know if he had it planned out nearly 10 years before the
Yeah.
Husbands of River Song came out, and that was obviously the
Honestly,
finale.
respect if so.
I mean,
If
yeah,
it's
that
just
is
on a
some
piece of
long
A4
game.
somewhere, it's just all written down bullet point. It is like, maybe I'll see if it pans
Got
out.
like a little spidergram, pointing to different aspects of
Oh, fully, yeah.
River
Duck
Songs.
pond, all
Yeah,
connected.
yeah. Well, let's move on to the next segment because I've seen, obviously in person as well, you've done a lot of cosplaying.
Ah.
You've done some really good cosplaying, and I've got to ask, what's been your favorite one to do so far?
Well, I mean, there they are. There they all are. All
Well,
doctors,
nice
1
little
to
collection.
13, what varying in comfort and accuracy. For a while, it was probably Tom, honestly, just because it was quite a fun sort of character to be in. But I mean, Tennant. Like I've got
Yeah.
not Magnoli. What's the other one? Baron Boutique
Oh,
suit for
okay.
Tennant, tailor made. It was,
Oh,
and oh, I just feel powerful in it. I feel
yeah.
good because people have always said for years, which I will always take as a compliment, that I look a bit like Tennant. I don't see it personally,
I mean, I
but
do.
well, I'll take it then. But I mean, that's why I'm glad that picture exists of me meeting him because it
Oh,
confuses people. But yeah, as soon as I put it on and like you walk around a convention and people sort of do that double take and it's nice. And then I can do the voice and it confuses people even more. It's excellent. Tenant all the way. Although when it comes to variation, I'm still thingy about because I think Day of the Doctor is the one I like the most
yeah.
mainly because that's the only proper tie I have. But at the same time, I really like the one he wears in Midnight with the shirt and the done blue shirt.
Yeah.
That's tight. But yeah, I as long as it's not the version he wears in Fear Her with that weird like
Oh,
thing. Like, what's
yeah.
that? Disgusting. The rest are fine though.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some good picks there, and obviously, yeah, I can tell that you're a Tenant fan as well, with your cosplay and stuff.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
do you ever think you'll cosplay as the 14th Doctor then, since
Hmm.
that's
Yeah, see, I've been trying to hold off until I've actually watched it
yeah,
because don't get me wrong, I get the excitement of grabbing things while it's hot,
yeah,
but I want to see if it's any good first. I mean, it's gonna be. I
yeah,
know it is because it's Tennant and RTD, and I love them dearly. But yeah, I mean, eventually,
yeah,
there's no point in me being like, well, we'll see. I will. So I just
yeah.
don't know when. I'm excited to do so because it is a serve.
Yeah, it really is, and I really like how it does kind of pay respects to the original Temp Doctor outfit, whilst also being like kind of like futuristic. It's got its own lick of paint, which I think is a really good fashion choice for sure.
No, absolutely.
So let's talk about your YouTube channel,
Mm.
Jack. So when did you decide to make the channel, and what were your inspirations behind it?
Well, I made it in 2010. So what's that? 13 years ago, because
Oh,
I was a child. Yeah, I guess that would have been around when Series 5 was coming out because it would have been September. So yeah.
yeah. Oh,
And my inspirations, because I don't actually watch a lot of Doctor Who YouTubers, both then and now, which makes me a philistine, I know. But there was a trio of creators, one that's still going, two that are not. Time Lord from Hell, the Master Crevice, and Daleks Fear Me. One of them is a very bad person.
oh,
Time Lord from Hell. If you don't know, don't worry about it. But basically, the three of them made Doctor Who spoofs and comedy skits based around the characters and episodes. Especially in the Tennant era, there was so many I loved. Doctor Who Big Brother, the 10 Doctors, where they all just lived under one roof.
yeah,
Inspired a lot of the stuff I made now. And I wanted to make a lot of that stuff. But weirdly, I didn't for many years. For at least 5 years, I didn't really make anything like that. I just I tried fan films, didn't really work. I tried figure stuff, wasn't quite talented enough for that. And then it wasn't until like 2015 where I figured out, oh, wait, I should just do what I was inspired to do and started Doctor Who Road. And the rest is history. Because I wasn't really obsessed with making stuff until about 2015.
Yeah.
It just kind of whatever my dumb child brain made for those 5 years. It's a weird time. I've got most of it's gone now, but
Yeah.
there's a a good chunk of Baby Jack figuring stuff out, and it's awful. But I want to keep it there for history.
Yeah. I was about to say, it'll be funny to look back on maybe, I don't know, in 30 years' time. You're just like, wow, that's really how I started. Wow, that's
Wow.
really what I used
Someone
to
should
do.
have taken that camera away from me. It's it's trash.
Yeah. Well, it's like, like you're looking back and it's character development, you've grown from a little Jack to, you know, Big Jack, essentially.
Hooray! Hooray for Big Jack.
Hooray for Big Jack indeed. But let's talk about Doctor Who Road because
Hmm.
you've had a lot of success with that. You've really I'm guessing you've really enjoyed making it because I can kind of tell from your performances. What's it like writing an episode for that? Because they are very unique projects. I would like to know your inspiration and stuff.
Well, for those who don't know, which is fair, Doctor Who Road is basically what if all the doctors, after their run on the show, were like the BBC turned around and said, "Well, you didn't check your contract. You're our property now. You're all locked in this one road, this one house. Deal with it." So every actor, doctor, companion, whatever, all under one roof. So it's basically a Doctor Who sitcom because why not? And writing it's weird. It's changed over the years because the first I split it up into phases because I liked Marvel at the time, and phases 1 and 2 are just kind of me figuring things out. So it was very much whatever the first thing came to my head was. When phase 3, 4, and 5 came around, that was the first time I properly planned it out ahead of time,
Yeah,
like it was a proper series of something. And I think that's definitely had shown some of the best episodes, but at the same time, it makes it more of a pain in the ass. I think I've definitely gotten to a point where I've overcomplicated it, so I
yeah,
want to try and simplify it again.
yeah,
But it's a lot of fun because the rules of your standard fan film are kind of thrown out the window because it's all based on this absurd premise
yeah.
with these kind of like bastardized versions of every character. So like Tennant is this egotist asshole who's a complete womanizer, but everyone's played by me, so it's all real weird. Like Smith's this just bumbling idiot who's way too trusting. Every doctor is just kind of heightened, and it's a fun one to write because when you have these absurd characters, it's all about their interactions,
Yeah,
and I don't know. I'm proud of it because there's not really anything else like it.
yeah.
Some people have tried to do their own thing and have just sort of copied it, and it never really went anywhere. So I'm kind of proud that I'm the lone island of weird Doctor Who content, I guess.
Well, speaking of your Doctor Who content, obviously, yeah, you've been on YouTube for a while. You produce a lot of content. What content would you like to produce in the future regarding Doctor Who? Do you have any goals? Do you have any future ambitions for your channel?
I definitely did sort of early on, but nowadays it's just kind of whatever comes to mind. Like I've really enjoyed the last couple of months, just sort of putting out the more random ideas, not connected to anything in particular. Like I've done adventure games, let's plays, but as Matt Smith playing them, which has honestly been some of the funniest things I've ever made because it's the most stupid thing. And then there's also the City of Death spoof, which has just come out, which I'm very proud of. Me and Harry, aka Hudson Media, created them when he came down for a week. And it's again also one of the funniest things I've made. I did a green screen thing where everyone could submit lines for a character to say, and I would say it in front of a green screen. So I think this kind of stuff I want to keep doing,
Yeah,
just because it's different, and I enjoy doing new things that people haven't really done, at least
yeah.
in this community, because the community is big, but there's some untapped stuff
Oh
that
yeah,
needs
of
to be
course.
found.
Of course, like that's the thing about Doctor Who, there's so much material out there already. Like you can adapt it to what you want it to be. So I don't know if you want it to be the 11th Doctor going skydiving or something. I mean, that's a very extreme idea, but if anyone ever
Yeah.
does that, I would love to see that.
Honestly, talk to Rassilon Productions because he's gone skydiving before, and he seems like the kind of person that would do that.
That would be really cool to see, and honestly, I think that might be the next trend in the community. Who
Well,
knows?
I'm calling Rory out. Rory, skydive out of a flicking helicopter dressed as a doctor. I want to see it.
Oh my! I could imagine what Twitter would be like that day. Oh
Oh, it
my!
would be spectacular.
It would be. It really would be. But let's move on to a different aspect of your channel because, as you mentioned earlier in your introduction, you are also known for your work on the community show. So, how did that idea come about?
Well, it was around, I think, 2021, sort of mid-year. I think, COVID was still a thing, so we're all locked up. But it was also around the same time that the whole John Barrowman, Noel Clark thing kicked up.
Oh
And
yeah,
everything was just downhill from there. There was a few people in the community that got outed for being terrible. The names escape me, but probably for
yeah,
the best. And it just seemed like it was a bit of a downer. So I wanted to have something just positive, just purely positive in the community. And so I thought, okay, well, what does everybody like? Oh yeah, talking about themselves. So I said, you know what? Everybody can have their chance to be promoted, and get their stuff seen. And there we go. It's just that. It's nice things in the community.
yeah,
Because, good Lord, I mean, it's never not a hellscape,
yeah. Of
but
course.
just having something, one series that is just here's the best we got. Enjoy. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's kind of where I imagined it would have, come from, in terms of like, celebrating the community and stuff.
Mm.
So when it came to obviously, getting in contact with people and stuff like that, when did you really feel like, okay, this is something that I enjoy making, this is something that I, want to try and pursue? Like,
Mm.
what was the
Um,
ignition?
It was a funny one because the first few episodes were a lot of fun, but it was definitely still trial and error. I think it
Yeah,
wasn't until I did my first in-person interview it really kicked off because the first few were great fun. It was
yeah,
a bunch of people with Spectral Horizons. That was brilliant. Bo, who's a fantastic artist who I've met now before, as well as Katie Haynes, the 13th Doctor cosplayer slash TikToker, who is one of the nicest people in the whole community. It wasn't until I forget which came first, whether it was the Dobson family or DW 2012. I think DW 2012 came first.
yeah,
Um, and it wasn't until then where I realized, like, oh, I've got something here. This is a lot of fun because yeah, Luke, Dom, and Meg, who were absolutely lovely to have me come down, as well as film a cameo for their fan film, which was lovely. And seeing their TARDIS was great. And then
yeah,
obviously the Dobson family, who is Andy and little Rory and little Ellis now. They've had a new baby, who are just some of the nicest people out there. They were very kind to have me come down. And as soon as I did those first couple in-person interviews, it was a real turning point for how I saw the show.
yeah.
Because I kind of saw the show as just kind of a side thing, just kind of like, I'll figure this out. But then I was like, oh, this is doing things,
Yeah.
and I can continue it and see how it goes from there and make it bigger.
No, that's obviously going to be a huge thing. Moving from just doing stuff online and stuff to doing stuff in person because yeah, it kind of hits different, I guess. Interacting with people face to face, and again, your origins of the that show was during COVID and stuff, where there were restrictions and stuff like that, and I guess I don't know, like, were you like appreciative a little bit more of the community when you were doing in person stuff?
Definitely, because before it, I'll admit I wasn't that into it. Of like, I didn't know many people in the community. Well, I didn't know anyone, not personally. I knew of some names. I heard of a Mr. Tardes, and I've heard of a Dominic Jaimarsin.
Yeah,
I've heard these names, but I was never really a viewer or an enjoyer. And so once I delved into the community to see what it had to do and to see what I could promote,
yeah,
I sort of saw the scope of it, and I was very much taken aback. I mean, there's especially now, even a couple years ago, there wasn't as many as there is now, and it's insane and it's
yeah.
amazing that so many people have their voice and have their own projects on the go. It's almost overwhelming. It's quite crazy. So getting the chance to not only promote them but get to know them. Like
Yeah.
I've met Dom many times at conventions. I've met tons of amazing people. Jude, I've met at conventions. Joel, like a poorly aged who, all these truly spectacular people who I wouldn't have known otherwise. I will always be in debt to my own creation, the community show for that, I guess.
Yeah, certainly, because like that's the thing about the Doctor Who community, not just your branding, but also like the show itself. There is a lot of friendships, and that's again the power of conventions. Meeting people with similar interests and stuff like that. Like it. Yeah, it's like a really powerful and I guess sometimes like an emotional thing as well.
Yeah.
But you've promoted a lot of projects, a lot of fan projects over the years, and even starred in some. So I've got a little bit of an improv two-part question here. So the first part is what's the best fan project that you've promoted on the community show?
Okay.
And then the second one is which is the best one that you've starred in?
Oh Christ.
Yeah.
Okay. Yikes.
Here
That's
we
a tricky
go.
one. Promoted on the show. God, there's so many. There's honestly too many. I well, starred actually. I can do starred in. At King's Reclusion, made by Hudson Media, is probably the best that I've featured in. It's a 10th Doctor audio,
Yeah.
and it's truly one of a kind. I absolutely adore it. Check it out if you haven't. It recently crossed 2K.
Ooh.
Spectacular. Although on top of that, Such Stuff as Dreams by Spectral Horizons, also fantastic. Nothing quite like it. Because I've started many episodes as Smith and Tennant and such. I'm very, very, very happy about that. I love that. But they're all blending together in my head because they're all
Yeah.
just, it makes sense. They're all episodes of the show. I get it.
Yeah.
But I like the ones that do something different with the format, especially when it's just audio. When it comes to ones I've promoted on the show, it's honestly difficult because I've basically promoted one of everything, or at least I hope so. So it's hard to say, but I can say that one of my favorite interviews I ever did was the initial Dobson interview. Not only was it nice just to chat to Andy, who has some brilliant stories of over the years, and especially like he's a teacher who bought this Dalek for a laugh,
Oh.
and like he was in his classroom, like he had the thing up on the big screen, being like, "Kids, should I do it?" Like, he was doing bidding, and they were like, "Yeah, do it." And then it went through, and he was like, "Oh crap, I need to call my wife."
Just a
It's
casual
amazing, but
afterthought.
also in the initial one, it was just little Rory, who I think was 3 at the time, and I worked in nurseries at the time as well, and he's such a funny kid, like an amazing kid. I love him to pieces. And now there's a new one who I recently met, little Ellis, who's not even 1 yet, and oh my god, the pair of them together, the cutest thing I've ever bloody
No.
seen. Outstanding. But yes, I would say from the show, probably just meeting the Dobsons and their whole thing, and from stuff I've starred in, Such Stuff as Dreams and At King's Reclusion. Yeah.
Solid answers. We
Yeah.
love to hear it. But obviously, this show as well kind of acted as a precursor to a certain thing that you did regarding panels at MCM. You've done
Mm.
a fair few of them now. So, how did the first one come about? How did you get that rolling?
Well, I forget when it was actually. It might have been late 2020. I don't know. It was October. But this was the first MCM back from COVID. I remember that much. And I just happened across no, I got emailed because I was on a mailing list about just general MCM stuff, and they announced applications for panels, and I thought, it'd be really funny. What if I did it? So this was only at episode 2 of the community show that I applied. But obviously, they wouldn't have seen it until like basically series 1 is done.
Yeah.
But so I applied. I threw a couple of names in. I did ask. I forget which ones. I think I asked at least 1 or 2 of the actual panelists, Rory and probably Dom, about just popping their names in, like, oh, it says I need guests. Would
Yeah.
you be interested? And they said, oh yeah, absolutely, God. And so I sent it off, and as it was coming to a close, I actually applied again, just because I was worried they'd only see the early stuff. So I applied with new links to the updated things, including the DW2012 interview and the Dobsons, just to make it look more legit.
Yeah.
Because at early days was not. So I applied again just before it closed. And pretty quickly, I heard back saying that they were interested in giving me a slot, which I believe was on the Friday. And I stand by that the only time, the only reason I got to do it, aside from potentially the guests, is because no one else was. Like, there's no. I refuse to believe that they would have selected me pre-COVID.
Yeah.
There's no way in my mind that that is a thing. Because who's this? No, who
It's
cares?
David Tennant.
It's David Tennant. But yeah, no, I am forever grateful for being selected, not just once, but now 4 times, which is insane.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that I've gotten the chance to do it this many times. I was convinced that after the third one that I wasn't going to get asked back, especially because the likes of you and Jack Alexander were also applying. So I thought, okay, well, it's time for someone new. Understandable. They're going to select someone else. I mean, you, for example, have the bigger audience. I know Josh did the Project Dalek one the year before, so it would have made sense to select him. I thought for sure they were just going to, all right, we're done with him. Get someone new.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, we were all selected to combine like a Power Rangers Megazorb. And yeah, the most recent one came to pass.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, surprisingly, yes, I do remember that. It was a really, it was a really fun time. And I'm curious to know, Jack, the first time you did it back in 2021, what was it like being on stage for, the first time at MCM? Was it, nerve-wracking, or did you feel confident back then?
Oddly, I wasn't that nervous. I think I was more nervous on the lead up just because, but I was more like giggling about it.
Yeah.
Because my mindset was, this is stupid. There's no way they're letting me on stage, right? This is a prank. But I genuinely couldn't believe it was happening. I did prepare the day before because that's just how I am. And the day of, I got things set up. They didn't have anything ready because I was the very first panel of the entire convention.
Oh, wow. Wow,
Yeah,
that's really
which is hilarious considering the most recent one we did was the very last
yeah.
panel of the convention. So I'm a bookend, is how I like to think of it. But so I got there, I got things set up, I had my little cue cards ready, and I just sort of stood on the stage, watching people filter in, go, wow, I've actually been allowed on. Fun. And I pretty much just let the chaotic energy take over as host, because I adore hosting. I love that kind of thing. And yeah, just sort of let the energy go through. And all three of the initial panelists, Dom, Philip Hawkins, and Rory, Rosalind Productions, did spectacularly. All the props to them. I wouldn't have been able to do it without all three of them chipping in and being excellent guests. And an audience turned up. That was a surprise, because the odd thing is, because I was the first panel of the day, general entry wasn't allowed in yet. Because with MCM, it's like priority starts and then general's only in at 12 or something. So as I finished, general was let in, and I was like, oh, but we still had about half the seats filled, which I will take. I will absolutely take.
Yeah, like especially in like a sort of restricted time with any priority in as well. That is that is a huge feat. Well done for that.
Thank you. I was surprised as well.
But when it came to doing like your second, your third one, how did it feel to go back? Did you feel like you wanted to do anything different, or like how did it feel going back to the panels?
It was an odd one. I think I knew not to rock the boat too much. I just kind of had to improve on what I already done the year before, because it doesn't. It looks like a lot of time. You only get about 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
And that feels like a long time. But as someone who now works in an escape room, to watching people try and solve a room in exactly an hour, it is not. It flies by. So I knew not to add too much. So I know I can fill time with the quiz, and then any extra time I can just chat to the audience and have some bants. So I just had to improve that. Luckily, the second one gave me a big leg up, because Project Dalek, who we all know is amazing, a group of Dalek builders, happened to be directly next to the stage. So on a whim, I walked over to the head honchos there and I said, "So, funny story. I've got a Doctor Who panel in about 5 minutes. How do you feel about like maybe lending me a Dalek just for a joke?" And they said, "Oh, we can do one better. Why don't we just have all of them invade?" And I said, "Yes, please." And this was unplanned, completely unplanned. Literally minutes before I had to jump on and start, I that was just sorted, and they were all lovely to come and do it. And I think it's pretty much all the Daleks that appeared at the most recent one, bar a couple that weren't there that year. And yeah, it was lovely of them to do it. So that gave me a leg up on the first one. And with the third one, I think, not to discredit the other guests, audience wise, the third one I knew didn't need much, because DW 2012 obviously has a massive audience. Mr. TARDIS, probably the biggest reviewer on the site, Doctor Who wise, and Chris Walker Thompson, who is an amazing
Yeah.
voice actor and impressionist. So I knew I didn't have to add too many bells and whistles to that. I just had to, get the most out of the guests, and they got the most out of me.
Yeah.
And the rest is just up to the audience, which luckily every single time for those initial three, not only was my wife in the audience, although then my fiance and then my girlfriend as well. Ooh, weird. But it was also my parents who also turned up. They didn't turn up for the most recent, but all three, they specifically only came for that and then just went home. Respect to that. So whenever you ask for questions, it's always initially awkward. It
Yeah.
wasn't at our one, which was nice. They all came up to the mic, but we didn't have that for the other stages. I just had to go into the audience with the microphone, which makes people not want to put up their hand, which is, understandable. So luckily, having not only my wife there to ask a dumb question to make fun of me, it's also nice to have my parents
Yeah.
who both wanted to ask questions to make fun of me. But then that loosens up the audience to also want to join in the bands. And like
Yeah, of
Rory
course.
was in the audience, Dom got in on the fun, Josh Carr before his panel, he got in the fun. It was lovely times, and all up on YouTube for those who want to have a little gander.
Yeah, I was about to say, all four panels are live on Jack's YouTube channel, and they are all fun to watch. So yeah, you've done a lot of panels now. Do you feel like there's anything that you want to do with a future panel that you'd like to, explore or maybe, try out, or is there any little bit of experimentation you want to do?
Definitely, yeah. I've tried my best at getting a panel at a Doctor Who specific con.
Oh,
The closest I've gotten to that was at Madame Who Swords, where James, the organizer, very kindly
yeah,
offered me an interview with John Levine,
yeah,
which was hilarious because he told me about a week prior, like, "Look, I really appreciate you getting me on the community show, interviewing me for that. How about I return the favor?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, of course. Where you going?" And he said, "Well, I've managed to book a guest from the show." And I said, "Oh, really? Who?" "John Levine, Benton." And I was like, "Oh, well done. That's really cool." And he said, "Yeah, well, we're booking him, like, he's paid by the hour, and we want to get our money's worth. Do you want to film him?" And I said, "Oh, hell yeah." So that's about the closest that I've gotten. But an idea I've been kicking around for years, which I've been desperately trying to get off the ground, but convincing people is a real hard, is, Gallifrey 1, they have that comedy group called The Idiot's Lantern.
yes,
I want to do that, but Britain. And goddamn, no one wants it. No, I've talked to the organizers of a bunch of cons, Doctor Who centric, not going to name names, not going to call them out, but nah,
oh,
they,
that's
they don't want it. And I've tried my best to do it solo. I had a project called Middle of the Night, or I might have gone with a different name. Oh no, I called it Midday, which was a full episode spoof on stage of Midnight. I
yeah,
had it fully cast. We did a few run throughs of the script. We were all very proud of it, but I think the project got a bit too big for its boots, especially as it was a solo thing. I didn't know how to do it.
yeah.
It just didn't materialize, which was a real shame.
Do you feel
But
like you'd ever revisit that at some point?
I'd love to.
Yeah,
I would absolutely love to. But I feel like it would have to be taken out of my hands to someone who is more knowledgeable about the stage
yeah,
and all that stuff. Because I can't do that. I was very excited to play
yeah,
Tennant on stage. I think that's something I really want to do. But yeah, someone else would have to make it. I still got the script. It's tucked away. Me and Joel, aka at PaulieH2 on Twitter. Me and him both created it together. We're both very proud of it, and it's just sitting dormant in a folder currently. So if anyone is good at stage stuff, get in touch,
Yeah,
please.
that sounds like a really cool thing to see, on stage one day.
Yeah, it was
We
going to
need
be
more
a
Doctor Who theatre
charity
stuff.
event. I forget what charity we picked because we didn't want to make. Well, I mean, we could have made bank off it, but it made more sense, especially because we kept running into the copyright problem.
Yeah, of
Because
course.
it went through a couple variations. The first was a just sort of direct adaptation of Human Nature and the Family of Blood,
Yeah.
but I asked what piss? What's the name of the guy who wrote it?
Oh, Paul Cornell?
That's it.
Yes.
I somehow got in touch with Paul Cornell and he said, no, don't do it. Don't like that. And I said, oh, okay, fair. So then my idea was like, oh, how about Chimes of Midnight? I'll do an audio. I
Yeah.
love Chimes of Midnight, one of the best audios out there. Cool. Got in touch with Rob Shearman. Same story. Didn't like it.
Ah,
Said no. So I said, okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm doing a parody. I'm not doing a straightforward adaptation. So then it's, fair rights, probably. But then also to possibly dodge copyright again, because shockingly, I couldn't quite get in touch with RTD,
yeah.
although I nearly did. I was
Ooh.
very close. I got to an agent. But I said, okay, you know what? I won't make any profit on it. I'll make it a charity. I'll make it a charity that RTD was directly a supporter of. I forget which one it was called, but yeah, I don't know. It's in the bank for things that could materialize, but no idea.
Oh, well, fingers crossed, maybe in a few years' time, we could see an adaptation of your script on stage. That would be phenomenal. And to be
Fingers
honest,
crossed.
I could easily imagine you just playing, the 10th Doctor, just having fun on stage. And I feel like, yeah, that's something you'd really thrive from, to be honest.
Oh, it would have been funny. I can't remember all the cast off the top of my head, but I know Jordan Cottle of Timegate, his audios, he was going to be Professor Hobbs.
Yeah,
Abby Louise of TT Productions, she was going to be Sky.
yeah.
The rest slipped my mind, unfortunately, but the cast were all amazing. Kudos to all of them. I'm sorry it didn't work.
Well, you never know. You could be getting in contact with them one day, be like, "Hey guys, remember that thing I was going to do a few years ago? Well, surprise!"
Oh God, I wish. I wish. But either way, I still want to do something comedy wise on stage. And I always thought, because the Idiot's Lantern did such an amazing job that I could do something over here.
Yeah.
But no one wants it yet.
Well, you never know. It could be Jack Reeves needs to go to America and try and break America. You never know.
Fucking watch me. I nearly
That.
got a panel at Gallifrey One, actually. That reminds me. It's
Oh,
just like,
really?
yeah, I got in touch with the organizers and they said, oh, we could be interested in it, but we wouldn't be able to help you get here. And I said, that's £1,000 for just the plane ticket. Maybe another year.
Yeah, that's kind of a little caveat there.
Unfortunately.
Ouch, ouch. But to wrap up the section about panels and stuff, yeah, obviously you're more experienced in the field than most. You've had a lot of interviews as well on the side. So, what advice would you give to people that are new on the scene?
Mm. Um, I would say, I mean, first of all, don't get too nervous about it because even if you bomb, it's still experience because
Yeah,
learning through mistakes and such. If you make like a bad joke or it's a cringe, just bank it in your head and go, well, I won't do it next time if I get it next time. Or at the same time, imagine it as this is the only time you're ever going to do it. Like,
yeah.
even if you think it's a surefire bet that you'll get a sequel, just think, okay, you have one shot, one opportunity to seize everything. No, that's Eminem. But like, because that's how I did it. Pretty much every single time I have gotten lucky to do it. All four times I've just gone, yeah, this ain't happening again. Let's just go all in. If you're nervous, use that energy. Fear keeps you fast and all that crap. And just have fun. Honestly, I see me and Harry. I found this out. Hudson Media. I'll bring him up again because me and him both are best of friends, but are very different in how we approach things. He is meticulously planned out. Even if it's just a pitch for something, he will plan out every single beat, every single shot, every single character. I, however, will very rarely plan anything. Like community show wise, it's it was whoever I could get in contact first.
Yeah.
For the panel, it was okay, we're doing this. I'll make up the questions really quick. There was a lot of times where, in fact, for the third one, I remember writing the questions on my phone on the way to the con.
Oh my.
And look, I'll also be a bit cheeky here. For the most recent one,
Okay.
which we all did, obviously we had that call early on to tell each other what we were planning.
Yeah.
You all told me you were going to have specific questions, like if you want to pre-plan stuff, there you go. I didn't. I made up my answers when we were sitting backstage watching Tomska.
I respect that because it did turn out well. It did really turn
but
out
that's
well.
also why I lost that argument to you so hard. Like, I mean, I would have lost anyway. You put up a damn good fight, but you could tell I had no idea what I was talking about.
Well, speaking of that argument,
Oh, here it is. I know what you're getting out.
my BAFTAs.
There, yeah, there it is.
Oh,
Yeah, Robin. The fact that it was a golden tenant, I was dressed as tenant, and I didn't win. Pissed.
well, maybe one day, Jack. Maybe one day.
Maybe.
But yeah, so like when it comes to planning and stuff, you feel like you're better on like kind of doing things a little bit like, last minute and kind of in the moment. Do you feel like that's where you're at your strongest?
I think so. Just because, well, people keep saying, like, for example, when I went on Who Knew a couple of years back, I was dubbed the charisma cannon, and maybe there's truth to that. I can't really see it because it's me, but if that's true, then, and I kind of have to assume it is, then really all I have to do is have fun, and then everyone else will sort of match that. Because
Yeah.
that's how I found in just even in work environments. Like if I go for a job interview, I don't ever plan what I'm about to say. I just kind of have to charm my way in, which let me tell you, sounds dumb, but it's worked every single time. I have never failed a job interview. And maybe that's just privilege. But as long as I'm having fun and I'm getting the most out of a situation, it's never failed me. Put it that way. And I've
Well,
never
and
had any
that's the main
complaints
thing.
yet.
Exactly. You've had a lot of success from that strategy, so I guess you can only say just keep up at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until
Well,
it bites me in the ass.
yeah. About to say when that happens, it'll probably be like, maybe it's time to change up strategy.
Yeah, I'll be cancelled one of these days. Twitter will come for me for
Or
something. I don't know.
yeah, Twitter, whatever it ends up being called in the future, will end up
X.
X or Y, maybe. I don't know if that's the next variation. But let's move on to something a little bit more spicy. So, I've got a debate question coming up, and just to fill you in, and for those that are tuning in to the podcast for the first time, this is marked by the audience at the end of the podcast current season by spiciness, because we know the Doctor Who fandom loves controversy when it comes to opinions and debates. So I've got a little bit of a hot topic here for you, Jack. And before I get into that, when it's marked at the end of the season by the audience, if you are victorious, aka the Time Lord victorious, you will win a £50 Amazon voucher.
Ooh,
So,
I do like money.
yes, exactly. So let's throw you into the deep end. So straight up, I'm going to ask you: do you think Doctor Who would benefit with a soft reboot? If so, please explain why.
No. Well, I guess depends on your definition, because I 2005 was kind of a soft reboot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel now that we're in the swing of things, there wouldn't be much point because it would always revert back anyway. Because
Yeah.
Doctor Who, with such a wide array of things going on, and it always is so self-referential. It's all, even if you start fresh with you're reintroducing the backstory, the TARDIS, all this shit, it's always going to come back to referencing itself and fan service and the continuity that came before. If you were going to reboot the show, you might as well go the whole hog, but that would be an even bigger mistake. Any reboot at all, I think, would just be pointless. Maybe a hiatus to give it a break. There, that's fine. But no, I don't think there'd be a need for a soft reboot.
So you don't think with I'm not, trying to say I disagree with you or anything, but with obviously, the Disney deal and Doctor Who now hopefully getting a huge push internationally as well. Do you
Yeah.
feel like a soft reboot wouldn't be, necessary for, for fans that also might not be able to get series 1 to 13 plus on whatever streaming services are
Yeah, you're not wrong.
abroad?
You're absolutely not wrong. But I think it's kind of already been done because when series 5 and 6 came out, they did that massive push in America,
Yeah.
and they didn't really need that kind of soft reboot because really every Doctor, whenever they come around, you could debate would is a soft reboot because it
Yeah.
has to reintroduce everything. But outside of that, doing anything more, I don't know if it's needed. If people are into it, they're gonna get into it regardless of how much is explained to you over the course of the plot. And yeah, I'm standing my ground. I don't
Okay.
think a soft reboot is necessary. Abstained overall.
Okay, that's it. Yeah. You heard it here first. Jack Reeves has just won the competition. Yeah, he's absolutely smashed it. Round of applause. Oh, there you go. The light symbol. He's won. He's won. So, yeah, if you agree with Jack, let me know in the comments because Jack could be the winner of the £50 Amazon voucher, and you could be the reason why he wins and goes on to buy, I don't know, destroyed Cassandra merch or whatever.
Watch me. The worst thing is, I had that figure as a kid, and I kind of wish I still had it. I got it from
Oh,
Woolworths because it was like, wasn't it an exclusive to Woolworths? And I remember saving up my pocket money, and that was the only one available. So I was like, oh, fuck, I'll add this to the collection.
oh my. Oh, that would have. Oh,
If
yeah.
only. If only.
I really would have loved to have that. Have had that, to be honest.
Who needs
Absolute
the Doctor
meme
or the
too.
TARDIS when you have destroyed Cassandra? It's the only toy. It's like
Yeah.
I'm trying. What would be the version of that now? Like if they did a Flux series of figures, what would be the destroyed Cassandra variant?
Just like the actual flux thing, like the little just in the
Yeah,
box.
yeah. Oh my god. Oh dear, that'd be yeah. No, that's perfect.
Or maybe, I don't know, if they revisited any of the older, I say older series, like some of the earlier stuff in the revival, maybe for series 5 they have like the actual monster from Vincent and the Doctor, and before you actually see it, it's just like a
It's an empty box.
invisible
Oh, if they ever did that, honestly, respect. That would be the best April Fool's joke character options could do. It's like a bundle between that and like an invisible Dalek
yeah.
from Thing. Oh, that'd be really funny.
Because that's the thing, like character options, over the years, yeah, they have done some like ridiculous, bundles and figures and stuff, but people are gonna buy it.
Oh, 100%. There will always be because there's still collectors. People always want every single one, which
Yeah,
I was close to being. I've got a basket. I've ranked them all. I've got the paradigm over there. But
nice.
yeah, hilarious. They will have to do something very specific to get me back in to buying stuff because I haven't bought one in a while. I think, oh, what would they need? Give me a Dream Lord figure. I want a Dream Lord
Yeah,
figure. Give me Series 5.
yeah. Dreamlord one would be a shout. The only ones that I'm really interested in that I think have only just released is obviously the Richard Hurndall and the Death
Oh,
Zone Dalek,
yeah. That
because
was a bizarre one.
that's me being the first Doctor collector there. Trying to get all the
Oh,
actors in
right.
figure form.
They should just do a set that's the three doctors, but it's the three Hartnells. So it's
Yeah,
Bradley. Yeah, that'd be to get on that character.
yeah.
Some character.
And then insert the old adverts they used to do back on, was it?
They need to. They need to do those like join
Yeah.
the Doctor, the Cybermen are here. Like I want that. I want that to be. I want them to advertise all the new stuff like that
Oh, that would
because it's
be
the
epic.
best. It's the
Yes.
best.
I would love that. And that's something as well I'd love to see. Doctor Who really pushed like merch from like the new era. That's something I'd love to see. I want to
I
get
think they're
Beat the
already
Me.
starting that because yeah, I want a plush to beat the me, but I think they're already doing that with like the 14th Doctor's Sonic. Like that sold out instantly,
Yeah.
both the new version and the old version. The more proper whatever the fuck shiny boy. But or ironically, I didn't buy one. But that's didn't the collector's edition like sell out that day, like
Yeah,
within
it
a
was in
couple
a few
hours.
hours, yeah.
It was insane. Yeah, so I think they are going to do that because they did it with a whole reveal as well. And if they're going to keep it up like that, I can only imagine. Like, it'd be great if they brought back the BBC shop Because
Oh
I
yeah.
remember they sold the Tenant coat, which is the one I've got, as well as the 11th Doctor's Series 7B coat, which I also have. And
Mm,
that shop was amazing. I reckon they could open a new one, sell the 14th Doctor's coat, sell Shooty's new stuff. They
yeah.
would make bank off
Yes, they
that.
would.
Although that would piss off the likes of Cos Daddy and Steve Ricks. But fuck it. Jack wants them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it would be very accessible as well. And to be honest, whilst we're on the topic of merch, there is something I would love to see as well, which I feel like has been spoken about a bit recently because people have been anticipating a potential reveal of the new TARDIS.
Mm.
I would love to see a TARDIS playset again.
Yes. Oh, please. The fact that we didn't get that for Capaldi, especially,
Yeah,
insane. They could have done the classic TARDISes too, with
yeah,
pushy buttons and shit. Like, here's the thing: I didn't like the Smith Series 5 one specifically, the character options one. I love the design, but
yeah,
in the show, but the actual set was a bit of a letdown. I know it was a tricky one because it's huge, but they couldn't have put any like a button on it or like
yeah,
make the thing go up and down. Like, it is yet to be peaked, that Tenant one. My grief.
yeah.
But yeah, if they could do that for the new TARDIS, please, please. That is the God. Now you've made me want
Because
it.
I imagine if it gets to the point of where, like, yeah, we've had like loads of variations of like, Doctor figures and stuff released over the years. Imagine if it gets to the point, okay, we're just going to release like a TARDIS playset for each TARDIS interior. That would be phenomenal.
Well, even if it was just the console, like, you don't worry about the walls. The kids don't care about that paper shit. Like,
Yeah,
no one cares about that, especially because it was a pain to put together. But just give us the console alone. Put a little bit of uppy downy action, a couple of buttons, a couple of lights, sell it for 50 quid. It'll be bought.
oh yeah, well and truly. And again, collectors would be on that.
Oh, 100%. It would fill a shelf.
Yeah,
But well done.
yeah, it certainly would. But let's move on to the final segment of the podcast today, and that is audience questions. Because
Oh,
we've received some from YouTube and the Twitter sphere. So let's dive into what my audience want to ask you. So, from Sarah on YouTube, what was the original inspiration for Doctor Who Road? I feel like we have already touched upon this, but
yeah. Well, I guess specifically it was the skits from those initial three people I talked about, called Doctor Who Big Brother, which was essentially all the doctors being forced to live under one roof. And that is basically Doctor Who Road, but without the tie to the Big Brother show. And yeah, it was just an excuse because I couldn't make real fan films. I didn't have the budget, the people, the time, anything really, or the skill. So I knew I needed something where I could do everything, have full control over it, and it to be as dumb as humanly possible. And all the doctors living in a house, I live in a house. I can make up doctor costumes. And that, so yeah, it was an excuse to not make real fan films.
yeah. Well, there you go. You heard it. The origin of Doctor Who Road. But right. The next question from Wally Club on YouTube. This is a two-part question. So I'll hit you with the first part first. What was your most memorable moment from MCM? Oh, I've really butchered that. What was your most memorable moment from a MCM panel that you have done so far?
Ooh, well, actually, I suppose it would be the first time the Daleks invaded us. That
Yeah.
were me, Josh Carr, Abby Louise, and Jude Lavis. All because I don't know if I told them it was happening because it was that quick, but but I knew, and it was great. And this was also around the time that Time Fracture announced it was shutting down,
Oh
which
yeah,
was the saddest day of my fucking life.
yeah. I can
But
imagine.
but yeah, so getting the chance to have a Dalek invasion as Time Fracture, the only like official way to do it was closing. Oh, I felt powerful. I felt good. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, good. Big up the Dalek people for allowing that to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And you've had a Dalek invasion since as well. And hey, that might be a mainstay.
Oh, I can only hope.
And to be honest, like I feel like that's something that could never get old. Just seeing Daleks just like storm your panel. It's
Oh, it's a visual I will never get over. Honestly, it's
yeah,
amazing.
certainly, certainly. And then the next part of this question, this blockbuster question. So, what is your favorite impression that you've done?
Ah, well, I mean, it's between Tennant and Smith. It's always going to be because the All my other impressions are comedy impressions. They are not supposed to be close. Like, my Eccleston is just up here. He's
Yeah.
just vaguely northern. Doesn't sound like Eccleston, but it's good enough. But with my Tennant, that's the one people are surprised I can do. And if it wasn't for Elliot Crossley, I would have to mark it cornered. Damn you, Crossley. But Smith is not quite as strong as my Tennant, but I'm quite proud of it. And I've done it in a few audios now, and it's always a lot of fun. I'd say for doing it would be Smith because it's much easier to go off in tangents as Smith. Hence why I've done a lot of the comedy stuff around him, like the Let's Plays of the adventure games. I can just sort of improv my way throughout. But Tennant, it's such a specific place in the throat that if I do it for too long, it will destroy me for a couple days.
Oh,
Like Harry knows this. Basically, anyone who I've done a Tennant audio for, I've had to do it in sort of chunks. Like
yeah.
I did one for Rory. I forget what that one's called, but it is one of his more popular ones. But yeah, that took me a good few weeks to finish recording.
Yeah.
Whereas Smith, I can get it all done in one go. So fun.
Well, there you go. Some pretty iconic impressions as well from what I've seen on YouTube and the audio.
Oh yes.
Really, really good ones. And again, you mentioned about the 10 audios. If you are listening to this podcast and you want to check them out, yeah, check them out. You mentioned about Rassilon Productions, so check out Rassilon Productions YouTube channel because I've enjoyed the audios on there as well, and I think they are absolutely fantastic, in the words of the Night Doctor. So I've got time for one more question, and that is from the Twitter sphere, and this is coming from someone that we know very well, Jack Alexander.
This guy, the third Jack. Go on.
Yeah.
What's he chatting about?
Well, he's opened up saying a wonderful guest, a great Jack as well. So
Correct. Yeah,
you get
so
some
far.
praise.
That's good.
But here we go. How was interviewing John Levine at Madame Tussauds? I bet the uncut interview was really something. Why did it cut around so much on your channel? I wish I understood, but alas, I feel like my brain is the size of a baby's.
Correct. Well, look, John Levine is an absolutely amazing guy. Honestly, he has a history, he has stories to tell, and I am very grateful that I got the chance to talk to him. So big up James from Madame Who Swords. The reason it cut around so much is that he went on tangents that I was not anticipating. And I'm not going to repeat what he said unless I see you in person because I don't want this on the internet.
Yeah.
But it just went some very dark places and ended with him crying. And here's the funny side of the story. Not only was my mother, my darling mother, in the front row, so every time John Levine had to look at someone in the audience for emphasis, it was always my mum. So that was a fun thing. But then also off to the side was James Sutton, Dominic G. Martin, and my wife, Gemma, giggling their little heads off because I'm there, stuck in this interview, holding this microphone whilst he says some, if I'm being honest, quite heinous things. And just me knowing I can't get out of it. So I'm stuck here being like, yes, no, tell me more about Russia. And they're just giggling their heads off. James has got some fantastic pictures he took on his camera throughout the interview. And there's one where I'm just like, again, John Levine, lovely chap. Loved getting to talk to him. It was a real honor, especially because he was in his costume, which was really, really cool. But holy shit. It was a lot. There was a lot to process.
Well, that certainly answers Jack's question there. So that's, well, I was going to ask, are we ever going to see, the John Levine cut of that interview, but I'm guessing not. No
way in hell is that happening. There is stuff he said that I refuse to put on YouTube.
No, that's completely fair and obviously equally completely understandable. So
yeah.
With that being said, Jack, thank you so much for jumping on today. It has been an absolute pleasure, delight, and honor to have you on here to talk about, your channel, about, your Doctor Who Road, the community show and stuff like that, and obviously your impressions. You are an absolute gentleman, so thank you for coming on. It has been a pleasure. From one Jack to another, thank you for joining in this nerdy conversation and stuff. Mm-hmm. And to my audience as well, if you have enjoyed this episode, leave a comment down below. And what do you think about Jack's comment regarding the soft reboot? Do you think he won? Do you feel like he was chatting out of his backsides. Let us
How
know.
very dare you with his clenched.
It is
Nothing's coming
clenched.
out of there.
But yeah, let us know what you thought, and obviously go and check out Jack Reeves' channel as well. You know, he makes some really amazing Doctor Who stuff on there. And yeah, I'll see you all next time, and bye for now.